David Price, Democratic member of Congress from North Carolina, who has both a PhD in political science and a divinity degree, a fascinating man, David Price, has written about Reinhold Niebuhr's admiration of Abraham Lincoln's second inaugural address, and I think this is the finest expression of religious humility by an American politician. It's exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about doubt. Remember that famous line from the second inaugural. After 4 years of civil war, Lincoln declared, both sides read the same Bible and pray to the same God, and each invokes his aid against the other. It may seem strange that any men should dare to ask a just God's assistance in wringing their bread from the sweat of other men's faces, but let us not judge not, that we not be judged. The prayers of both could not be answered. That of neither has been answered fully. Now, Price cites Niebuhr's view that this passage puts the relation of our moral commitments in history to our religious reservations about the partiality of our own moral commitments more precisely than any statement or theologian has put them. Lincoln, Price noted, expresses the moral commitment against slavery in uncompromising terms, along with the determination to finish the work we are in. But there follows the religious reservation, the recognition that ultimate judgment belongs to God alone. The refusal, even in this extreme instance, to presume an absolute identification between his own course and God's will. The doubt and humility promoted by religion, properly understood, is not a form of weakness. It represents one of faith's greatest contributions to public life. Lincoln demonstrated as clearly as anyone that it is possible to undertake great tasks in politics with firmness, commitment, principle, and courage, and still not pretend to absolute certainty about one's course, one's intentions, or the purity of one's motives. It is a style of public religion that badly needs to be rediscovered and put into practice. I will skip something that I wanted to do, but I think I'm close to the end of at the end of my time. When the two things I had quite a lot to say about the neo-atheists, I think there are the two best answers to them are not to re-enter the old arguments about belief and unbelief, although those are very interesting arguments to enter and they're worth entering. Really the best answer is, by our work shall you know us. If you remember the subtitle of Christopher Hitchens' book, he asserts that religion poisons everything. Now that's a very large claim that I think if a journalism student subjected it to careful reporting, might have a problem holding up. But Hitchens is absolutely right when he asserts that religion has been abused. He's absolutely right when he asserts that it has been used by the powers that be to draw, as Edmund Burke put it, a decent drapery over what their real intentions are. And so I think the believer is obligated to embrace the mission described in the title of Jonathan Sacks's book, To Heal a Fractured World. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks is the chief rabbi in Great Britain. I am troubled by the face religion often shows the postmodern world, he writes. Too often it appears on the news and lodges in the mind as extremism, violence, and aggression. Coining a word, Sacks warns that when political conflict is religionized, it is absolutized. What in politics are virtues, compromise, the willingness to listen to both sides and settle for less than one would wish in an ideal world, are in religion vices. Religion can therefore act not as a form of conflict resolution, but rather as a form of conflict intensification. And Sacks offers a call to a religious humanism that is surely not limited to his own tradition. The message of the Hebrew Bible, he writes, is that serving God and serving our fellow human beings are inseparably linked, and that the split between the two impoverishes both, unless the holy leads us out toward the good, and the good leads us back for renewal to the holy, the creative energies of faith have run dry. Now, what I'll skip is my other favorite section of the book, but I will just make this assertion and we can discuss it if you like. I believe that when I was completing the book, I was struggling to figure out what would be a down-to-earth, easy-to-understand way of summarizing how I believe the sort of new religious politics I was talking about really translated in a practical way. And I decided that politicians could learn all they need to know about this from Frank Capra's movie, It's a Wonderful Life. Now, many people groan when I say that, but many people don't groan. when I say that. And I have a whole focus group report based on It's a Wonderful Life. But I believe that it is a movie that is both that preaches, among other things, that capitalism can be good, but only if capitalists recognize moral limits, the social mortgage on their wealth. And I have a whole series of other propositions that It's a Wonderful Life teaches. As I say, it's cheaper than paying for a focus group. And if anybody loves that movie as much as I do or hates it as much as some of my friends do, I'd be happy to go in that. So let me just close this way. The Christian right is finally an abstraction. Millions of committed Christians who may well have responded to the appeals of that movement at a particular moment are rethinking not so much their politics, but the public implications of their faith. They're growing impatient with narrow agendas as they reach out to the poor in Africa like Rick Warren and in their own communities, as they worry about the obligation to stewardship of the earth, as they grapple with practical ways to reduce the number of abortions, and as they struggle to approach gay friends and relatives in a spirit that is consistent with being Christian. I think liberals are changing too. They are remembering things they had forgotten about the spiritual sources of their own dreams. They are recalling that one of the great successes of the last half century was the civil rights movement, led by a Christian preacher who was inspired by the Declaration of Independence and by Scripture. They are realizing that bigotry against people of faith is still bigotry. They are accepting that if religion can sometimes promote prejudice, it often promotes justice. They are coming to understand that their central goals, to lift up the poor, feed the hungry, shelter the homeless, care for the sick, and challenge injustice, have biblical roots and religious sanction. To end the religious and cultural wars and to allow religion to flower in public life, we need passion and we need humility. We need passion for moving our nation out of a period in which public problems went unsolved and the possibilities of broad alliances were lost because narrow political imperatives triumphed over the idea of the common good. And we need the humility to understand how prejudices of believers against unbelievers and unbelievers against believers have obstructed our path and blurred our vision. The final enigma of history, Reinhold Niebuhr, quote, in case you didn't notice he's a hero in my book, is therefore not how the righteous will gain victory over the unrighteous, but how the evil in every good and the unrighteous in the righteous is to be overcome. I think we must realize that self-righteousness is the enemy of righteousness, and at the risk of picking a fight with St. Paul, hope is the virtue on which faith and love depend. Thank you very much.